excuse me while I be incredibly unprofessional. Fast becoming a YouTube sensation. It's nice to meet the 5 people on Earth that think the way I do. Do not be like, I'm 91. Like, nobody cares. You're about to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Am I freezing to death or am I starving to death? I wonder if I should eat that slice of pizza. A squared plus B squared, C squared. Hey man, let's stand upright. Also, calculus is pretty cool. It's either deja vu or I talked about this last week. Your body's not like an old Chevelle and it's like, oh good, caffeine. You are just effed up. And he was not wrong. Probably the single greatest thing I've ever done for my health, besides not die. I have a lot of intrinsic motivation to like do cocaine and drink coffee. We call those addictions, not necessarily motivations, but tomato, and the incredibly long, irrelevant discussion about nothing.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Hard Rock Lunchbox, and of course, the top 20. Fast becoming a YouTube sensation, and by sensation, I mean not a sensation at all. But thank you. It's funny, the actual videos of the top 20 seem to be doing as pathetically not well as they've always done, but the shorts, for some reason, just had a new YouTube short for the top 20 cross over 10,000 views again. I know there's an algorithm and I know things make sense out there. I don't understand it. And I feel like I've read some stuff, but clearly not enough stuff on the subject to understand it fully. But I mean, I understand why some things are more popular than others, and I understand why, for example, there is certain hashtags work better for like the SEO kind of, and that all makes sense. Like that makes sense to me. I've been dealing in that kind of stuff since the World Wide Web started, back when I was in college. But it's just funny to me that I could have a video. Like, I mean, I could bring it up, but it's not worth it. It's not really entertaining. It's fascinating to me because I'm a stats nerd, but, like, it's really not all that entertaining, I don't think. But, like, I'll have a video, like, at 10,000 views, and then I'll have the very next video at 4. That I don't understand. I don't understand why that works. I don't understand how that happens. You would think that you would accidentally see something else more than 4 times, but it's cool. I mean, like, I'm super happy because it keeps adding subscribers, which I find interesting, and then I'm hoping that those subscribers, because I always link the video back to Strangerhood TV, I hope they find their way there. As I've said before, the reason I don't actually have those shorts on Strangerhood TV is, one, it's a major pain in the ass because I don't own the channel, so it's hard to do it through my AI clip maker thingy, because it just does it for me. I just say, hey, this is what I want to publish, and it just goes. But the other reason is like, I've already gotten 2 strikes against the Strangerhood TV channel. One I got reversed, the second one they didn't reverse, and honestly, the second one was the more reversible one in my opinion, especially because they're talking about some community standards for some stuff that they hadn't enacted at the time that I put the video up, and then they kind of retroactively got mad at it. But also I pointed out that what I was saying wasn't in violation of the community standards. I was actually talking about the mindset of people that are doing the wrong thing out there. It's like if I was Walter Cronkite, going back a few decades, if I was Walter Cronkite and, talking about like what was going on, like say like the killing fields in the Khmer Rouge, like if I was describing what was happening, it wasn't that I was advocating for it or anything. I was just telling you what was happening. So, but I don't have my news credentials, and YouTube does not care what I have to say unless I say something that violates community standards. I gotta tell you, I'm so over the fight with all these things about like the differences between right and wrong are just they're so goddamn pointless at this point. Like there's no winning these wars anymore, and I feel so beaten down from it because there's no reason to continue. And I didn't have much to talk about today because I'm really trying to shy away from a lot of this stuff because it's just not worth it. I mean, it's fun if I have something to talk about politically. Like, I have something that I want to say about something. Like, I'm glad that I have this forum. And it is fun and amusing to me to watch the comments just lose their goddamn minds over anything I have to say. Because, I mean, I guess I'm glad. I mean, like, people just... I mean, very rarely are people like, yeah, man, I totally agree with you. Like, I love when that happens because it's nice and refreshing and stuff. And it's nice to meet the 5 people on Earth that think the way I do. But, you know... most of it is like, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, neither of those two things are ever true. Like, they're just not. Like, if I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not talking. Like, I'm just not. Like, I could have a different opinion than you, and my opinion will probably be more informed than anybody that's going to take time to comment on a stranger's post on YouTube, but just saying. Anyway, I got some light housekeeping. So the top 20, the new top 20 is out. It's Wean the Fiend, because I'm weaning myself off of caffeine. I will tell you, actually, I'll save that, and I'll just continue this. Also, talk about, like, how not to protest and being pushed to the center. I'm fine. I think that was the one, that was the short that's actually getting a lot of the traction. And I can also talk about that in a second. Revel 9 shows coming up. I got Shaker's Pub at the end of the month. That's actually a week from tomorrow. I got to talk about that a little bit. And the Village Pub will be in June, about a month after that. About like a month. Yeah, a little over a month from today. Wait, is it? It's not. Is it next week? Wait, hang on. Today's the 16th. Excuse me while I be incredibly unprofessional. 16th, 25th? Yeah. Oh, it's a week from Saturday. It's a Saturday show. Anyway, the band Hue is on Bacon Is My Podcast. The full interview this past Monday. I don't know what's on this week. Sorry, I'm just failing miserably at a bunch of things because that's what I do now. And but anyway, so a couple things. I don't know if any of it's interesting, but it is stuff that I have to talk about, and I have roughly 20 minutes to kill. So the caffeine thing. So I will say I got myself... I don't even remember how much I was talking about this last week. The whole point of it is I'm trying to get off caffeine because I'm having a lot of trouble sleeping, which is not unusual, but I'm just realizing that it might be at least contributing to how bad my sleep has been. I mean, most of my sleep problems throughout my life have been stress related, because I mean, I honestly don't know how everybody else does it. Like, I know it's not uncommon. So, like, when you do wake up in the middle of the night, and then your mind immediately starts working on stuff, like, those sort of stressors are what are typically responsible for me having bad sleep. And, you know, I'm normal in the sense that I follow, like, that kind of 90-minute clock, that internal clock, and it's an approximation, and it's just, you know, it's a rough average for most people, most humans. You follow these 90-minute sleep cycles. If you don't know this is probably important for people having sleep problems. If you don't know this, you sleep in these 90-minute cycles, roughly and approximately. Please do not be like, I'm 91. Like, nobody cares. No, it's just roughly and approximate. So, if you go to sleep at 11 p.m., and you can kind of count out those 90-minute blocks, so 11 a.m. will get you to 12:30, will get you to 2, you know, and so on. So and then you get to, like, 3:30, and then 5, and then 6:30, and then 8, right? So if you can sleep from 11 to 8, that's 9 hours. That's a really great amount of sleep. But that is also the time where your body naturally rises out of these deeper sleeps, right? So, you know, in the 90 minutes, you kind of drop down, and then you kind of perk back up. And this, where you perk back up right there, that is where everybody advises that you try and wake up. They have apps, and they have watches, and they have devices that can monitor the way you're sleeping, kind of like the restlessness, so it knows, or thinks it knows, roughly when you're at the top of those 90-minute things, so that's when it tells you to wake up. So if you set your alarm for 8:30, but you are, like, super at the bottom because you just didn't fall asleep fast enough, or REM didn't kick in, or whatever, it won't wake you up then. You can set it to either wake you up earlier, like if you're at the bottom at 8:30, it could wake you up at 7:45, or it can wake you up at 9:15. If you have a more flexible sort of life, that's a really, really good thing for you to do. And if you didn't know that, and I'm just bringing you this information, I encourage you to like look that up and review some of the studies you see on YouTube. Like anything from Andrew Huberman will tell you about that. Those are always really good. Anything from Tim Ferriss will give you information about that. That's also really good. But that is an important thing. If you wake up and you're super groggy all the time, count backwards to see exactly where you're falling in that 90-minute thing, and you might be surprised, because a lot of times it's better to wake up earlier before you go into that last dip, because you just won't be so groggy. And sometimes that groggy, if you're anything like me, can take hours to shake off, and that's because of cortisol and adenosine and all those other things. So anyway, that's important. So I was, obviously trying to work on that. But what's happening is I'm having some physical issues, as you know, like with sort of the compression of my neck that has caused like some nerve damage and nerve pain. So it's much more likely for me to wake when I get to the top of those waves, right? Those 90-minute waves. And when I do wake, if I have these problems that I'm working on, either personal, band, work or whatever, my brain will immediately kick in. Because one of the other things that the brain does, the subconscious does, by design, by the way, is if you stop focusing on a problem, trying to solve it, your brain will be like, all right, man, I got this, and will continue to just chug along on it in the background, like while you're not paying attention. Because the human brain, aside from being just an incredible piece of machinery, is really designed to solve these problems for you as a human. Like, how do I? Because your brain is also not smart enough to know that like every stressor isn't about you're about to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, right? Like there's a book called The Big Leap. John Gabriel. It's definitely Gabriel. I think it's John Gabriel, where he basically talks about how the mammalian brain, or the reptilian brain, sorry, the smaller one, is more about two kinds of stress, right? Like either freezing or famine. And every single stressor of the modern age has to get filtered into one of those two categories. So if you think about that for a second, every single stressor in your life, like relationship, work, traffic, financial, health, everything has to get fed through, in this theory, everything has to get fed through one of those two things, right? So your body, like once it processes through the big part of the brain and gets down to the small part of the brain, what's left is your body is thinking like, holy shit, I'm freezing to death or I'm starving to death. Those are your two stressors. Now, if you think about that and know that every single stressor that you've got has to run through one of those two channels, that's not good, because that means any stressor, like I'm out of Post-it notes, has to be like, am I freezing to death or am I starving to death, right? Like this is not great, right? These are not two great options where it's like, oh man, I wonder if I should eat that slice of pizza. Like that's not really what I would call a stressor, but like that kind of thing. Anyway, so your brain is like trying to filter it through those things. So those are major things. So your body is designed to work on these kind of problems, even if you're not directly focused on it. In fact, what they say, the best way to get rid of sort of ruminating thoughts like that is to face your problem head on and solve it. Because if you opt to not solve it, your brain's going to continue to work on it in the background. Now, this is true of most stressors. There are obviously more complex problems that your brain is just never going to solve, so it's not really working on it in the background and stuff. Like those are things that take some actual mammalian, like frontal lobe sort of things. Like your brain is never working on that math problem unless you're like just a super nerd and it's like trying to figure something out. But that's not really your subconscious. It's like a squared plus b squared c squared. Like your subconscious isn't doing that. Your subconscious is generally busy, like like where am I going to find food tomorrow? Like that kind of thing. That's what it's interested in. Like they did, like on the savannah when we were like evolving from apes, it wasn't like, hey man, let's stand upright. Also, calculus is pretty cool. Like that wasn't how it worked. So your brain just isn't designed. And you have to understand, like your brain is behind like the modern age in terms of evolution. It takes a little while to evolve, our incredibly complex system to our modern events. Like for much of human history, like we really didn't have to worry about this kind of stuff. Like joke about like calculus, right? Like that's only a couple hundred years ago. But we've been chasing chickens and turkeys and trying to eat birds and trying to avoid getting eaten by bears for a lot longer than that. So that's important. Now, I'm not saying in 10,000 years, your brain's not going to be sitting there like an old IBM computer just trying to figure out its next calculation. It might be, because that's kind of how evolution works, but it's going to sort of depend on what kind of world we're in and how we've evolved into it. My point, and the incredibly long, irrelevant discussion about nothing, is that I've been waking up because I'm at the top of this sort of rise curve. I've just been waking up and immediately start going to work on things that are stressing me out, and that sucks, And the likelihood that I can just fix everything to the point where everything isn't stressing me out is pretty low. So what I opted to do is try and keep my stress responses a little bit more in check. And one of the ways you can do that is by reducing caffeine. Because, and this was interesting, I feel like I knew this, but I hadn't put all the pieces together, and I don't know that I might have mentioned this last week, but I was just starting my caffeine, so I might not have been paying attention. But Andrew Huberman from the Neurolab, is he Caltech? Man, I can't remember. But Andrew Huberman, he was talking about how caffeine doesn't actually give you energy, right? It doesn't. Coffee and caffeine does not give you energy. What it does is it causes you to have a stress response, and stress responses are the things that make you alert, right? This sounds familiar. So it's either deja vu or I talked about this last week, but it's the thing that causes your head to be on a swivel because it puts you back on the savannah and you're now looking around for saber-toothed tigers. That's your stress response, because that is what the body is designed to do. So caffeine doesn't actually give you energy, whereas there are certain sugars, there are certain not elements, certain ingredients, parts of whatever, some things of other foods that do give you energy, like vitamin B, and all the B complexes are generally good for energy, B12 specifically. That's why people say get a B12 shot, it's really energy that your body can actually create. Your body's not your body's not like an old Chevelle, and it's oh, good, caffeine. That's regular high-tech. It's not that at all. So it's causing this other thing. And the reason it's doing that is because it's a poison. But the point is that it's causing a stress response. So your body is more stressed. So what I'm thinking, or my wisdom in this, or my approach to this is based on the wisdom that if I can just lower the stresses that I'm putting on my body and my system unnecessarily, then maybe I won't have such an advanced stress response when I wake up in the middle of the night like that. So that's my point. So that's why I was doing it, that incredibly too long explanation. But I am at day 7 or whatever if I started last week. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I'm at day 8 of this. So I think I'm on a 14-day reduction. I got to tell you, I have had 0 symptoms at all. I have had no symptoms at all. I've only had, I had coffee. I had an extra, a little bit of cold brew. I have the Wandering Bear cold brew, which I could not recommend more. I really like that cold brew. And it's pricey until you realize how much Starbucks cold brew goes for. And then it's you do the equation. It's oh, wow. It's also super strong, so I usually end up cutting it. But I had some yesterday because I just had a headache that would not go away. I had such a bad headache yesterday, starting from the moment I woke up, that it was so bad that I couldn't even shake it after the headache was gone. I had gone to the chiropractor, he adjusted my traps, and he was like, dude, man, you are just effed up. And he was not wrong. So he fixed all that. But I had that residual headache. You guys, you know what I mean. It wasn't quite a migraine, but you guys know those residual headaches when you have such intense headaches that even when it's gone, the space it occupied in your brain is still there. I had one of those. So I just needed it to stop because it was wearing me the F out. So I actually had some extra caffeine, but I didn't actually have any sort of caffeine withdrawals doing it this way. And just really quickly, I'm doing this simple replacement method, which means I'm using a French press, which don't let it discourage you. French press is super easy to use. It's actually easier to use than any coffee maker I've ever used, with the exception of an espresso machine, because it's all preloaded and it just goes and blah, 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 blah. But a French press, super easy. It was $20, less than $20 on Amazon. So what I did is I got that, and I cannot remember the name of the chicory herbal coffee replacement that I got. But I got that, and I got a really nice French roast, dark roast for French press coffee. And basically what I'm doing is the French press takes 7 scoops. I don't even know how much the scoop is, but it takes 7 of the scoops it came to it. So basically what I'm doing is every 2 days I'm replacing a scoop of the coffee with a scoop of the fake coffee, right? So I'm not having caffeine. I'm just lowering it gradually. But I will say, like, if anybody's interested in doing it, do it that way. Feel free to message me too, and I'll just tell you exactly what I did, and I'll tell you exactly what I did it with. I'll even link you to the things that I bought on Amazon because it was just easy enough to do. So if you're looking to give up caffeine, I can help you out because, like I said, I am having absolutely no withdrawal symptoms, and I got to tell you, I have withdrawal symptoms from literally everything. I was actually talking to my son just yesterday about like how much it absolutely sucks being an addict and having addict behaviors and mentalities, and there's actual parts of our genetics, like these SNPs and stuff, that make us prone to certain addictions and stuff. And I was just talking about like just how hard it is to deal and function in those things, and he's starting to realize some of those. Like, he's able to do them and able to navigate his world, but I was saying, like, having that knowledge is super important. Like, I smoked for, well, not, I was going to say most of my life, but that's not even true anymore, thank God. Again, I've said before, that's probably the single greatest thing I've ever done for my health, besides not die. And, that was the hardest thing I've ever had to give up was smoking cigarettes. And I've given up other stuff over the years and stuff. And I've even lately have reduced my alcohol consumption mainly because my body just can't handle it anymore. I feel like I'm just sort of in a phase where my body's just like, dude, you are not doing well. But I was losing some weight and I was a lot healthier. I'm sad to point out that I'm up like 8 to 10 pounds again over the past 2 weeks, and I haven't really done anything other than just survived it. But yeah, it's just really, really sucks. I mean, it was a really, really great way to start my day, to see just how much fatter I am than I wanted to be, plus how much fatter I am than I was, even though I'm just actively eating less, drinking less, and doing all that other stuff. And I don't know what it's going to take. I meant to come here and talk about motivation and why motivation is so hard, because I was watching this TED Ed on motivation and talking about the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, and why the intrinsic is the thing that comes from inside. Like, why if you have the quick of it is that if you have what's the thing at New Year's? Like a New Year's resolution, right? If you're doing something because you have extrinsic motivation, like you want, to lose weight or whatever, you want to run a mile or do all those other things. Like, if it's coming from inside, you have a much better chance of succeeding at this. But also, if you are enjoying the thing that you're doing. Remember, I was talking about all the walking I was doing and how much I was enjoying all that. So it was much easier. The motivation was completely there. Whereas I should really be doing maybe not sit-ups because I've got an abdominal issue currently, which is awesome, let me tell you. But I should be doing more workouts and going to the gym more often and stuff like that. That's I want to go do those things, but I don't want to do them enough because I'm just not enjoying them. So my intrinsic motivation is just in the garbage and stuff like that. So it was actually really interesting, but it was explaining why motivation is just so elusive and so hard. And the secret to motivation really is making sure that it's something that you want to do and you're enjoying doing it. And they're talking about a lot of people have this really heavy lean towards intrinsic motivation towards playing video games. And I'm watching this as an addict, by the way, and being yeah, because they're addicted to the video games. That's not intrinsic motivation. I have a lot of intrinsic motivation to do cocaine and drink coffee and drink alcohol. What we call in the business, we call those addictions, not necessarily motivations, but tomato, I suppose. So I've talked enough. Like I said, I'm going to try and keep these down to closer to 20 minutes so I can actually edit them in a decent amount of time, because they're taking just too goddamn long, to be perfectly honest with you. But it's time to get started with our local, or maybe not even local, but it's more of our unsigned sort of rock block. So I like to look at this as new music from artists that probably aren't showing up in your billion plays feed and Spotify, I like that. If you have any new music from new artists that I don't know, please feel free to send it my way. Hard Rock Lunchbox at gmail.com will get you there. These are a bunch of guys that I've been following for years. They are one of my favorite unsigned bands, probably of all time. They have a song called Should Have Swiped Left, Should Have Swiped Left, which I think is just genius, and I love playing it. But they got a brand new one out called Glass Houses. I really dig this one, and it starts off the box today. So there you go. Little Crash Overcast for you on the box.